Then afterwards, they sent me an email. They asked me for my details. What is my compensation? What would I desire? At that point, I don't even know that there's hourly rate.
Yeah.
So I just gave out a figure.
What was the figure that you gave
$8.
out? $8 per hour.
Yes.
Okay.
And when I calculated it, it looked like a lot of money. Yeah, because
yeah.
they're like, I needed to work 40 hours a week. I was like, I can do this. And then my time was flexible. So I was able to do the local job and the remote job because it was a company based off in the United States. So I needed to work within their time zone.
Yeah.
So it worked for me.
What challenge did you experience? You know, especially managing multicultural teams.
One of the biggest challenges I experienced was language, especially the teams from Asia. They'd say that I speak too fast. Others, they say that my emails were a bit too harsh. Yeah. Others would say that I'm beating around the bush because I'm not going straight to the point.
Yeah. What other tools and resources, have you implemented or have you used as a project manager and an operations specialist that can help someone, do their jobs better? What are some of the skills that, you think someone should invest in getting, and what makes one an excellent project manager? Welcome everyone to this episode of BTS Beyond the Savannah. If you're new here, my name is Lorraine Otieno and I am your host today. Today's episode, which is part of our success story series, is one that is very special to my heart because our very special guest is here. She's one of the people that I got personally wrapped into her journey in her landing a remote opportunity. So I am so honored that she accepted our invite, and her story is truly inspirational, and you're going to see why in a few minutes. So meet our guest, Miss Kathy Njau, and welcome, Miss Kathy.
Thank you.
I've got a question for you.
All right.
When did you last golf?
Wow, that has to be sometime last year, before I traveled. But I am back on the course, trying to get my handicap. But yeah.
Nice. Travel to where? Where did you travel to?
I was in the United States of America, just for a break, to go and see what the green lands have, and to visit family and friends.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. I guess let's take it back. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure I know you. I'm sure there are a number of people who are like, ooh, so who is this golfer? So tell us something. Who are you for the people who are meeting you for the very first time? Okay. Who is Miss Kathy? What is your educational background? What do you currently do? And if you want to go, like, how did we get to know each other?
Okay. Yeah. So Miss Kathy is a project and operations specialist. I've been in this industry for quite a bit. So I studied Bachelor of Business Information Technology from Strathmore University, graduated in 2013. Then thereafter, I pursued an MBA in Strategic Management from Daystar University. And that has been my journey ever since. So doing projects and operations, currently working as an operations manager at one of the local firms here. Allow me not to state the name yet, up until some later time. But again, I've also been a remote worker for 4 years now. And I enjoy it.
Nice. Yeah. So, Miss Kathy, I want to get to understand, how does one then become a project manager and an operations manager? Where does your journey start?
Okay. So I started working, and I remember this date vividly, August 2nd, 2013. Yes, straight from campus. So I was lucky enough to have been onboarded as a management trainee at one of the big firms called 7Cs Technologies. So that is where my passion for project management started. So of course, what happened is I rotated in very many departments, but my heart settled in project management. Reason being, I think the idea of just projects handling many different projects, no project is the same as the other. And that was very fascinating for me.
Yeah.
But of course, behind all that, I had been into a marketing, finance, sales departments for a short period of time. And I could see how that intertwined to make a project. So that's where my journey started. Then thereafter, after my stint at 7Cs Technologies, I was taken up by a company called Rover Digital as a project manager. And now this was, in my previous role at 7Cs, I was shadowing someone. But now in this new company, Rover Digital, I was now the face of the department. So I was tasked to coming up with a department, managing various engineers. And in that organization is where now I deep dived into project management. So I was dealing with software development projects and basing off my IT background, it was very easy for me to gel and get to know. Then in this role is where now I'd say my career expanded. I was exposed to very many international projects. So in 2015, there was a challenge that was floated by then Google and a company called ITC, and we signed up. So the whole idea was to come up with a project that would help women, trade across the world. And we were the top 5 finalists. I remember I went to Brazil and presented the project on behalf of my company and my team members to the judges, and I won. Wow. So I brought the award back home and I led to the development of it. It was taken up by another global company now that runs with it. And that is where I felt that, I got this. I actually can do this. And out of that, a lot of people reached out to me to become a mentor as well to young girls who want to be in the space of IT. Then after that, I expanded my IT knowledge. I went into infrastructure. I went to another company that I worked as a PMO. And then,
PMO being?
Project Management Officer.
Yes.
Where now I was dealing with projects such as networks, database, a bit of construction projects as well. And I was leading really big projects in terms of value in terms of money, and also capacity resources. Then I continued growing, but towards 2019, towards the end of 2018 into 2019, I decided to take a small break to try and figure out, is this it for me? Then I took a 6 months break and I decided to try out something new. And this something new wasn't really new, but maybe operations. And why I've just remembered right now, one of the reasons why I got into operations is because of my dad. My dad was working at one of the big firms here in Kenya, and I could see how he's growing and what he used to do. So I felt, wow, why not copy my dad? And in any case, I'm a daddy's girl. Hi, daddy. So I thought I would incorporate both of them. Then I worked at an NGO. So come 2020, I got an opportunity to work at an NGO called Heroes for Change as a technology and operations manager. So technology didn't leave me. It was still part and parcel of me, but now I was more into operations. I did that stint for 1 year and it helped me grow. Then my contract ended in end of 2020. So come 2021, is when now I got into the world of remote working. And how I landed my first remote job was just out of the blues. I mean, I was just on LinkedIn. I'm out of work in 2020. So what next for me? It's a new year. So I was like, okay, what next?
Before we get into, you getting into remote jobs and the job searching part of it, how was your experience? And perhaps you can break it down. So you have been a project manager in a SaaS company, you have been a project manager in a construction company, you have been an operations specialist and project manager at an NGO. how is, like, what does that entail day to day, right?
Okay.
Just in case someone is out there listening and if they're curious, what does a project manager do? What are some of the things?
Okay.
Like, break it down simply
Right.
to us.
So in like you rightfully mentioned, I've been in different industries but doing the same thing.
Yeah.
One of the principles of project management is I define it into 3 constraints: time, cost, and budget.
Okay.
That across any industry is a standard. And so project management is a transferable skill. Just that the dynamic sometimes will be a little bit different. In a software company, it will be slightly different. In an NGO, of course, it's different because in an NGO, you're dealing with donors. You do a lot of reporting. How are you using the money?
Yeah.
Are you getting value for the money that they are giving you? Then now you go into a different industry. It's different. In construction, you're dealing with casual workers on a day-to-day. You're dealing with very high risks of, cement has been stolen. There's issues with, people are not getting along well in the construction industry.
Yeah.
But all in all, a project is basically something that must have a start and must end. That's a project.
Okay.
Anything that is not that is not a project. It becomes operations, because operations is something that you do on a day-to-day basis. It's routine. But a project has a start and has an end. Yeah. And for me, the exciting bit is today I will do a construction project. I will finish it and it'll have, like, say, a legacy. Like, I did that project. There's so many projects I've done here in Nairobi that whenever I go through them, I'm like, yeah, that was my project. There's that
some sense of pride.
Yeah, there's a sense of pride that you actually began a project, saw it through, and you launched it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So let's go back to you landing your first, or starting to seek out remote opportunities. So you're on LinkedIn.
Yes. So I was on LinkedIn. At this point, I remember it was January, and I was getting a bit desperate because my contract at the NGO ended. Unfortunately, it ended abruptly. It wasn't something that I was prepared for. So come in January, new year, new things. But for me, it's like, there's no job.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? It's COVID as well. So I remember I was scrolling through LinkedIn and I saw a post, freelance project manager. I was like, now what's this? So I looked at the person who posted the job, and I had some mixed feelings towards it because it's like, this must be a scam. But anyway, I decided, let me give it a shot.
What made you feel like it was a scam? What made you
because
because
the person who posted it was an African. Yeah. Really?
Okay.
From the West. And I do not want to state the country, but it's from the West. And I was like, this must be another scam. I was like, there's nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Let me just try it out. So I applied on January 16th. And they went quiet. I was like, yeah, it was true. Then on March 8th, I received an email that they've shortlisted me for an interview. And I needed to, prepare for an interview. I was like, okay. So I remember I told my mom. My mom was like, also,
okay. Because of the bad rep.
Yes, because of the bad rep. But at this time, I had already started another job.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I went now into education.
Okay.
So I'm
still as a project manager or
operations now. So through a friend of mine, she linked me up with her cousin, and the cousin wanted someone who'd set up an organization, and such things excite me. Yeah, building something from the ground up. So I came in, worked at a company called Edupedia Limited. And it was a company that, takes students out to study. And so this guy wanted to set up an office in Nairobi. Okay. And I was like, I got this. I know how to do. These are things that excite me a lot. Yeah. So I did it. And so in the process of, I got this interview, I did it. So the first interview was with this West African. I was like, okay, seems legit.
Yeah.
I was like,
the same West African that posted the role?
Yes, the same one. Then afterwards, they sent me an email. They asked me for my details. What is my compensation? What would I desire? At that point, I don't even know that there's hourly rate. Yeah. So I just gave out a figure.
What was the figure that you gave out? $8 per hour.
Yes.
Okay.
And when I calculated it, it looked like a lot of money. Yeah, because they're like, I needed to work 40 hours a week. I was like, I can do this. And then my time was flexible. So I was able to do the local job and the remote job, because it was a company based off in the United States. So I needed to work within their time zone.
Yeah.
So it worked for me. So I went, did the second level interview. They were very impressed and like, they've given me the job. I was like, okay.
Nice. I've got to ask, what questions were you asked during the first interview? And then the questions that you asked, if you can remember.
Wow, I remember.
There's anything that stood out. Yeah.
So they asked me what my experience in project management was.
Which you had.
Which I thoroughly had. But they asked me if I had any experience with AI. I was like, yeah, AI. Yes. I heard a bit about it, but you know, I said I have. Yeah, and that was it. Then the second interview, I remember they asked me whether I have experience working remotely. I told them, yeah, it's COVID time, so people are working from home. So I thought that was remote. And they're like, okay. So they gave me the expectations, you know, questions of how do you manage resources, now online resources. How do you manage your time? How do you manage project costs? These are things, like I said, they're transferable. How you manage a cost in construction, in an NGO, it's the baseline is the same, just a little tweak. And they were impressed. So they gave me the job. They sent me the contract, but they sent me a freelance contract. I didn't understand what a freelance contract is. I was like, you know, I have a contract. I'm working. They asked me to open a USD account because I was getting paid by the dollar.
Yeah. Did they give you the $8 that you?
Oh, yes. Yeah. They what you say is what you get. But at that point, I was like, I'm okay. I have a local
role,
job, and
and you're working, it's part-time as well.
And both of them, yes, one of the remote job was quote unquote part-time, but I was still expected to work 8 hours.
8 hours.
Yeah. And then now the local company, since I was still running around looking for furniture, office space.
Yes.
So it really helped me manage both. So I ran with the two. The projects were interesting. Managing people from India, Korea, South America, Africa. It was just, at one point I was dealing with 100 people. Whoa. But I managed it. And I remember they were very supportive in terms of the role. And then they came to hire a bit more Kenyans within the organization, but different projects. So we'd have hangouts together with the people, just talk about your different projects.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I stayed there for 2 years, I think. I remember. Yeah. Until September 2022. Yeah, if my memory serves me right.
Okay, cool. I've got a question. Because as a recruiter, part of what we look out for in terms of your skills is exposure to multicultural environments. Because if you have that, it means that you're going to find it a little bit easier to kind of gel in the remote space. What challenge did you experience? You know, especially managing multicultural teams.
One of the biggest challenges I experienced was language, especially the teams from Asia. They'd say that I speak too fast. Others, they say that my emails were a bit too harsh. Yeah. Others would say that I'm beating around the bush because I'm not going straight to the point. Yeah. So that was a bit of a challenge for me, but I quickly adapted because in my previous, I'm well traveled, not to brag. Ever since my global award, I was able to go to so many countries for different forums to speak to people.
Yes.
I've been to China, I've been to Turkey, and these countries are different. Interacting with people, especially like people from China, who I worked with a lot. Simple things as writing an email in red color is considered bad luck.
In China, that is. Yes.
But for us, I feel like I am really emphasizing a point. But you're not.
Like, you have to do this.
You have even underline and you bold and all that. And that's different when you go to, like say people in Turkey. It's different for them. But because out of that exposure, it really helped me. And that's one of the things that also helped me get the job. They wanted someone who's mentally exposed to other cultures, not necessarily going to those countries physically, but what are you doing from where you are to get to learn about other cultures, other countries. Yeah. So language was a big barrier, especially spoken and written as well. Yeah. Because some would say they can't hear you. I also can't hear them because of the different dialects.
Yes.
So you'd find there's a bit of frustration. Another thing is time, the time difference. I needed to be conscious that when I'm speaking to someone in a different continent, I need to factor in the time zones. Yeah. So you'd find that I'm busy following up for a deliverable, yet the person is, asleep. And I'm wide awake and waiting for it. So coordinating all that was a bit of a challenge, but you need to be quickly adaptive to change and, situations. Yeah.
And I also think there's an intentionality about, just having your mind open to different time zones. I say this because just this week, one of our clients, got an interview and she thought that she had selected an 11 a.m. interview slot. Yeah. Turns out she had selected an 11 p.m. So she's there at 11 a.m. Ugandan time, waiting for the interviewer to join, only to find out that it's actually after she double checked. Oh, it's 11 p.m.
Yeah.
So one tool that I usually advise my clients to use is actually Time Buddy. And it's all about being intentional and not just expanding your space and mind onto the different time zones, like you rightfully mentioned. So I want you to understand, what other tools and resources have you implemented or have you used as a project manager and an operations specialist that can help someone do their jobs better?
Tools are very many, but I'd like to categorize them into a few. So one is communication tools. Yeah. Being a remote worker, a lot of your time is invested in communicating with your colleagues and other people that are not necessarily with you there. So one of the tools I've used a lot is Slack for communication. And so Slack is very diverse. You have channels for your team, you have channels for your project, you have channels for just announcements. And it's very critical, especially as a remote worker, to be on top of the latest updates that have been set up on Slack, because there's no excuse of I did not see. That is not acceptable. The other tools are project management tools that help you understand where your project is, where, how many resources do you have, how much money have you spent, are you over budget, are you under budget? So there are various tools out there that you can use. One I've used is Asana, there's Jira and Microsoft as well. So those ones just help you have an overview of your project. And it also helps you do reporting, because in project management, reports are diverse. There's reports for executives that just want a high level of what's going on. There's reports now for the people doing the development work. They want to see the details. There's this part that hasn't been developed. This is the blocker. And then there's financial reports. This is the budget that was approved. This is how much we have used. This is how much we have spent. Then it also helps you understand scope as well. This is what the client wants. This is what you have delivered.
Yeah.
It also helps you understand quality of projects that you're, developing. So the tools are many, and any other tool, Google as well is also coming up very well in terms
Google
of,
Workspace? Or
Google Workspace. Okay. Google Workspace in terms of communication, meetings as well. Zoom. Zoom is also very good in terms of meetings. Yeah, I think those are the tools that have really helped me in all my work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I have to do a little housekeeping, and I forgot. We should have started with this. If you're watching this and you like this video, or you're enjoying our conversations with Miss Njau, go ahead and give us a like, subscribe to this channel, because that then helps us, kind of gauge whether you are enjoying this, conversations, and whether you're finding value on this channel. So go ahead and do that. So now that we've talked about the tools and softwares, which is amazing, by the way. And you know what? Slack is actually free.
Yes.
So there's absolutely no reason for someone to say, Mimi sijuku tumia Slack. Like, don't be a lazy job seeker. But let's talk about some of the skills. In your opinion, now that you have an extensive experience in project management and ops as well, what are some of the skills that, you think someone should invest in getting, and what makes one an excellent project manager?
What comes to top of my mind first is people skills. Project management is about managing people. But in project management, they're called stakeholders, because these are the people that do the actual project. So if you're not able to manage them, your project flops. And there are different stakeholders in projects. There's the top level that own the project. There's the people who are developing it. There's now the outsiders who are going to be impacted by this project. There's communication as well. You have to be a great communicator in project management, because you as a project manager, what you say, it is believed to be the actual truth. And of course, when you lie, a lie will always catch up with you.
And it's the representation of the client.
Yes, it's a representation of the client, and the client can be internal or external. Then the other skill that you have to have is emotional intelligence. That because there are times a project will test your patience. It will test your craziness at some point. You will feel like, just firing everyone because some people are not in tune with what your thought process are. And then the other one is being a servant leader. So as a project manager, yes, you own the project, you own the processes, but you're working with a team. How are you helping your team grow? And that is something, in my opinion, I feel like a lot of project managers do not do. So you have your team that is working with you, but how are you empowering them to move from where they are to the position you are in? And the other one is you need to be knowledgeable. You have to study for project management. There are various global certifications available. One is Prince 2, and the other one is Project Management Professional, famously known as PMP. That people need to do, and that certificate is heavy. I wish someone would have told me to do my PMP before I did my MBA. I think I would have been in a better position. But I ran to do my MBA because my friends were doing it, and and I didn't want to be left behind. But that doesn't mean that it's not helping me. It is actually helping me a lot in my current role, because now I'm more into strategic line of thought on how to do my current work.
But to just reiterate, I guess for someone who wants to get into project management, they've either done a diploma or a degree, and they're thinking, in between, should I do my MBA or not? Would you say do the certifications first and then come back for your MBA?
Absolutely, 110%. Do your PMP first. But again, PMP, I'm biased towards PMP because that is what I'm currently studying for, and I want to do my exams in that. And the qualifications, or rather not the qualifications, the requirements for that are, they're not too extensive. You just need 35 hours of study of project management. There are many courses on Udemy that you can do. Then I'm sure some courses in universities, depending on which school, the School of IT, School of Engineering, there's a unit that probably might be called project management, and it is actually considered.
Oh, nice. Regardless of your university?
Yes, regardless of your university. And now work experience. So for you to do a PMP, you need to have, I think, 3 years of work experience doing projects. If you don't have the 3 years, you start from CAPM, and all this information can be found on pmi.org. It gives you the requirements. And then after PMP, now you grow to a portfolio manager
Nice.
That's my aim.
That's your aim?
Yeah.
Okay, I think let's go back to, now you're doing 2 roles.
Yes.
You're doing Edupedia?
Yes, Edupedia as operations manager. And Transperfect.
Transperfect.
Yes, that was the local company in the US as a project manager.
Eish, did you guys hear that? That was the local company in the US. Hey. Okay, yeah. So how are you managing? Because doing 2 roles at the same time, I'm really keen to understand. I don't want to say I could never, but I think I would find it taking a toll on me. Individually, right? So how are you managing that? 2 roles, 2 expectations, and you have to deliver. You don't strike me as a person who's going to do something 50%.
It's all or nothing.
It's all or nothing, right? So how are you managing?
So one of the advantages that I had was that the projects were happening in 2 different time zones. One was happening during the day, the other one was happening during the evening, late afternoon into the night. So for the local company, I was this company hadn't really like started. I was the only employee. Okay.
Because they're setting it up.
I'm setting it up. I'm busy looking for offices, furniture, running around with county offices to look for, I think, CR12s and the likes. Yes. So, and of course, it worked to my advantage because government processes take long. Yeah. And of course, I was still now studying, trying to, put things together, a company profile. And my boss then was based in Uganda. Okay. So I just give him regular updates. And since I was still working from home, because the office is not there, I used to take any free time to work, now to study about the US company. So when it reached around 4 p.m. is now when I go now full force into my US role. And I'd work that all the way maybe up until 11 p.m. or 12 midnight.
Nice.
Yeah. Not and bad. Again, it was still in the COVID times. There's literally nowhere I'm going. No child to look after. I have a lot of time on my hands. So I was like, okay, it's either I sit, watch TV all night, or get a little bit of money into my pockets.
Get $8 an hour.
Exactly. $8 an hour. So I was like, I have the time. So it was just a matter of making sure my times do not collide. My deliverables are clear. So it needed a lot of intentionality that when I wake up in the morning, my focus up until this time is Edupedia. After I'm clocked out of Edupedia, I now clock in. Of course, I have breaks in between. And the good thing about remote work is I'm working from home. I'm comfortable. If I want food, it's the kitchen. If I want to take a nap, my bed is there. So really, it wasn't too heavy on me. But it started getting a bit heavier towards 2022, mid 2022, because now the office is set up. I'm hiring people. But again, flexibility and open communication is what made me thrive, because it reached a point where it almost collided, but I needed to be open. My bosses were good. I told them, Scotland is bed. It's bed beds. So I need to balance. And they were open. So long they said for them, and one of the things I realized is showing up is some level of commitment, but what your productivity is what is most important. I could work 3 hours, but I've delivered my deliverables for the day. But I could show up in office and do nothing. And, so it was just a matter of what are you doing? What have you set out to do today? Have you delivered? If you deliver it within 1 hour, well and good. If you deliver it within 8 hours, well and good.
I think there's also a lot of grace that, high performers are granted. Because you cannot be an average performer and you're saying, I have 2 jobs. Like, how it makes sense? So could you tell us more about your remote work experience, like the company Transperfect?
Okay. Yes. So Transperfect was an amazing company. Working with people from the US, different culture. You have to be on time. Wow. You have to
not
be
5 minutes Kenyan time.
And if they say a meeting is 20 minutes, it's exactly 20 minutes. There's even one word that I always use. As like, I have a hard stop at 2 p.m. So if we've not discussed what we have discussed within that time, I'm sorry, we move it to another time. Or if we start the meeting late, it has to end at 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
And that is something that I'm adapting everywhere I go, because we have to respect people's times.
True.
Yeah. True. So this whole idea of African timer is not my vocabulary. Not at all. Anyway,
so the people, I have a question, I have a comment.
Was it on the agenda? If you have a question, fine, shoot it. But I'd be able to pick it up and say, this is a project issue. We do it in the stand-up. A stand-up is a stand-up is a very short meeting, and you actually do it standing. So that, because you sit, you just become comfortable and you talk and talk and talk. So you say, these are the project issues. What are the blockers? Who's the project owner and who's going to help you? Quick, fast. And we move on. So that really helps projects move along. And I think all project managers should adapt that style of, meetings so that you do not have endless meetings with zero agenda or they've deviated. Anyway, I digress. So in 2022, so things have set, performing well in both organizations. I decided, you know what? I think I need to take a break and travel. I'm a lover of travel. So in this year, I went to Europe.
Okay.
I'd gone for a friend's wedding. So I've done my handovers. Everything is working perfectly,
Yeah.
Set out of office. Adios. If you need to look for me, I'm back after 10 days or 14 days. So I remember I was in Italy, enjoying Rome. And so I received a call from my boss. It was a WhatsApp call. I'm like,
which boss now?
Oh, sorry, my US boss.
Okay.
So I'm like, interesting. The first thing that came to mind was, have I forgotten to hand over something? So I ignored the call at first. And then message came like, Catherine, we need to talk urgently.
And before you proceed, it is interesting because they respect your time. So when it's vacation time,
yes,
you don't expect work call.
Absolutely.
Unlike
So they were so apologetic. I remember my boss telling me, Catherine, I know you're on vacation, but this needs your urgent attention, and I will not take more than 15 minutes. I was like, okay, must be something that wasn't really clear. Yeah. So I remember I got onto the bus and I was like, okay, I can talk. So what's up? And I had a really cool boss, and you'd talk casually. How are things? So it's like, he asked me, how's Italy? I'm like, I'm enjoying every minute of it. I'm enjoying I think it was towards the winter. No, I keep interchanging these seasons. I mean, it wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold. It was just perfect.
Like autumn.
Yes, I think. So he tells me, I need you to get on your earphones because I need to tell you something. Okay. I'm like, okay, what's up? So he tells me, Catherine, unfortunately, I have bad news. The company has decided to restructure and downsize. And I was like, oh, okay. So get on with it. So it's like, unfortunately, the entire Kenyan team is being let go of. So I really needed you. I would have waited until you come back, but I needed you to have this at the back of your mind, even as you vacation. I was like, okay. All right.
Wait, can you please walk us through the emotions? Because, come on, Kat, you are in Italy on holiday.
Yeah, day 2. I never forget. Day 2.
And then you get a call.
Yes.
Like, ay.
So my heart sank.
Yeah.
I was like, no, what is this?